without further ado, I think I can go ahead and introduce Brittany. Brittany Allen, who we are thrilled to have with us this evening, grew up in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and strives for perfection and excellence in her unique designs. After receiving her Bachelor's of Science from the University of Arkansas and her MFA from SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, she moved to Austin, Texas, where she is currently an adjunct professor of fashion courses at a local university. She works on her brand full-time and is simultaneously in the final stages of her PhD in apparel merchandising and design at Iowa State. That's a lot to do all at once. That's I'm going to hasten to say maybe too much, but we'll see.
It is way too much.
Brittany's designs mix powerful shapes with feminine prints, and she incorporates French seams throughout every garment to add a couture refinement and emphasize her formal training and techniques. Brittany's goal as a designer is to bring fun and excitement back into the fashion industry, and her designs are meant to make women feel more empowered and beautiful. She describes her brand as if Dolly Parton and Betsy Johnson had a baby who was then raised by Anna Wintour. I love that tagline.
I'll never live that down.
Her designs have been showcased at Austin Fashion Week in 2017 through 2019, 2017 Houston Fashion Week, and September 29 Style Fashion Week, along with WWD and Footwear News. I should also say she was also featured in 2017 Northwest Arkansas Fashion Week, which is the premier fashion week of the Americas. So Brittany, it's so good to see you. It's been a long time.
Yes. You're supposed to see each other before this, but COVID.
Which I feel like was actually 10 years ago.
100%.
So Brittany was supposed to be a visiting guest with us for Northwest Arkansas Fashion Week Spring 2020, which was 6 years ago. However, COVID times hit. I remember actually Brittany and I texting about whether or not she was going to be able to make it to town, and we were both saying, like, COVID, no big deal. This is going to blow over. So we were very wrong.
We were very
we were so wrong.
I'm like,
that did not play out the way I expected it to.
No, crazy.
So let's talk about your year. I mean, I think that, I will say comfortably that literally nothing went the way I expected it to for 2020. How about you?
No, yes. I mean, so our season ended on Thursday. I think it was March 12th was our last episode. And then that Sunday. So we literally had 3 days before quarantine started. So I feel like we kind of got like robbed of that very little ending of the season, because I was supposed to do like little appearances and like fashion shows and like, just like meet and greets and talk with my consumers. But like that didn't happen at all. The beginning of COVID was really good because I was selling things like masks, and people wanted those things like casuals, like hoodies and sweatshirts and things that, like t-shirts they could just wear around the house. I think everyone experienced kind of like a shortage in consumption of high fashion.
Yeah.
No high fashion being sold whatsoever. Or bought. So that was kind of shocking, because I thought coming out of the show that would definitely kind of like boost that part of my business. But it was like, hold on, you're going to have to kind of rethink this and figure out how casuals can sell. I started the year off like thinking my business would go one way, and then now it's like having to completely rework it because of the time.
But you pivoted so quickly and so effectively. I feel like you went, we adopted mask making pretty early on because the world needed it. And I watched you just like maybe even before us or right alongside us pick up mask making, and you donated a ton of masks as well. How many masks did you end up making?
Well, we donated 2,000. That first like month, I think. I brought in help for that, which was really good. I think total we made 6,000.
Wow. Just out of your workshop?
Just out of my studio, yeah.
That's amazing.
I know.
And then you also started doing like embroidered, like butterfly embroidered sweatshirts and
Yeah, but I've got some embroidered casuals, and then I just brought on like this whole little system to do like, it's not screen printing, but it's like screen printing sister. It's called sublimation dyeing. Where
Yes.
yes, you can print on a printer. It's like a sublimation printer, so it's special ink, special paper, and then you can take a heat press and you can press this essentially like a printed piece of paper, push it onto your garment and heat press it, and it will turn the ink into a dye, and it will dye the fabric, and it will look like screen print, but there's no texture on it. So I'm playing with that. That's been fun. But yeah.
So we're about to buy a dye sublimation printer ourselves. So you're going to have to come teach us how to use it.
Okay.
Because
it did take me a while to figure it out because I was like, what is happening? But after playing with it a bit.
So you mentioned that in the beginning, sales were actually, to your surprise, much stronger than you expected. Can you talk a little bit about just like business? Like how has business been for you as a designer on this roller coaster we've been on?
I mean, so whenever COVID first started, it was really good because I was selling things like masks. I felt like I got kind of like the head start on masks before a lot of other people did. Everybody's making them now, so everybody's masked out. But I was kind of the first one to like, okay, I'm selling masks. So those sales were insane. But I also saw that me offering things that people wanted during this time, which were like sweatshirts and hoodies and tees and joggers and things like that they could just kind of like lounge around the house. If I sold those and put those on the website along with the mask, people were buying, going on and buying one or two masks, but they're like, oh, I also want this t-shirt, or I also want this t-shirt. So they weren't just buying one thing. It was kind of like a one-stop shop. So I tried to really like market it that way. And it was really good. I hit my year goal, which I feel like I kind of like lowballed it a little bit just because I was like, this is really my first year to be like completely full-time brand. I hit that goal by April, which I was supposed to hit this coming December. So that was really cute, real cute.
We like that.
I can expand the business now. Let's go. So yeah, looking back on it, I probably should have like saved some of that money, but I put every dime back into the business, and now I have this huge studio and it's amazing. But yeah, it was really good. Like business was really good in the beginning, and you can kind of see like everybody's starting to buy masks. Everybody already kind of has their own mask. So I think everybody's like I said, masked out. Like,
yeah,
they don't want any more. So that it just kind of trickles in, every now and then I get like a couple little orders or whatever. But I think people are kind of now starting to just kind of adopt like a few high fashion garments, like purchasing those little small things here and there now within these last couple of weeks, because it's like, okay, I'm going to go to dinner. I'm going to wear a mask to dinner, but I'm going to go to dinner. So you can see like slowly people are starting to buy again, which is exciting. So it's crazy having to shift those gears all the time. It seems like
did you and your alumni, your Project Runway alumni, have you guys talked about how to recoup that moment that you missed out on? You did sort of, like that big finale moment when you were supposed to have all of that media attention did get eaten by a pandemic. So
we've all I think we've all kind of like wallowed a little bit in each other's presence. We're like, we got robbed. We didn't get to do anything. We didn't have a reunion. That sucked, but we did. We got to film. I'm really grateful that we got to film the finale right before everything, because we filmed the finale February, like the second week of February. So we missed it by like a hair. So I'm so happy to like actually film that in person, because I wanted to see that fashion in person. I didn't want to do something like a Zoom finale. So I was very appreciative of that. But yeah, I think we're all just kind of like wallowing in each other's misery. We're like, oh, we didn't get to do appearances or like, talk to our fans or enjoy that like aftermath moment at all. But it's okay. We're making it work. We're just, there's no like black and white answer here. We're all just like in this gray area that we're like, we have to figure out how to make this work virtually, and reach out to like, consumers and brands and market our brands. And it's taking some time.
Yeah. So in the meantime, you went ahead and got TikTok famous, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, thanks for quarantine. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was crazy. I literally just started like uploading dumb videos, like just, you know, like not even fashion
Your content that way.
Yeah,
your content is amazing.
It was like the worst content ever, and I had like 30 followers. I think it was like nothing. And TikTok's a whole different market from Instagram, if you don't know. Like Instagram, my main market, I think I was looking the other day, it's like 28 to 38 to 45. Like that's my biggest market. And the people that are like the 16 to 24 or something, that's like 10% for me, which is crazy because I do feel like my brand is like a younger kind of thing. So maybe I need to rethink my target market. I don't know. We'll see. But I thought that that would be a perfect, like TikTok would be a perfect way to market to that younger market that I haven't been able to reach. So I started like really doing research, kind of like flipping through and seeing who was really relevant on TikTok in fashion. And so I was like, oh, these are the things that they're doing that works. And so I just started doing like little tutorials, like little sewing tutorials and kind of like finding my niche and then showing process videos. So like on TikTok, the max that you can load is 59 seconds. So I would take like just little snippets of me sewing a garment literally from sketch to finish. And that way you can kind of like be a part of the process. And yeah, I think I'm like 100 followers shy of like 70,000, which is exciting. My friend just hit 1 million. So like, I'm not 1 million, but I just hit 70. So like, but yeah, it's hard because for TikTok, it's video content. So it's not just like one little picture that you can post on Instagram. You got a caption, you can make it this whole thing, but it's a video. So you have to like actually put hours of time into it. But it's
right.
cool because I'm getting business from it. And it's, I think as you get more followers, it redirects them to like your website and then they may purchase like a sweatshirt or something. So for me, in my eyes, you know, my husband's like, oh my God, you're doing one of those TikToks again. But like, I'm like, this is free marketing for me. Like, I don't have to pay for a Facebook advertisement. I can literally just do a video. And then if I gain a bunch of followers from that, then it can bring business into my website. So for me, it's free marketing.
I think it's amazing. You know, we were talking about TikTok today and whether or not we, like us, I feel like we're such olds. Like the TikToks.
It's really hard. You almost have to make fun of yourself a little bit because then they're like, oh, that's hilarious. Okay, we'll follow you.
Like, do we want to try to even wade into TikTok, especially given it's kind of like, do we even have TikTok? Is it a thing you have currently? Is it banned? Is it not banned? Like, what happens if it disappears?
If you haven't downloaded it, yes. I don't think it's on the App Store anymore. You had to have it before Sunday.
So how does that feel to have built up such an amazing following in just a few months and then?
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be like taken away, and I was like, oh my God, if one more thing gets just like ripped away from my career, I'm gonna die. So I was like at 60,000 followers whenever they were threatening like taking it away. So I'm like, I've built this huge following, and you know, that building a following on TikTok also brings that audience over to Instagram. So yeah. I've gained like I think 2,000 followers in like a few weeks, which was super exciting. But yeah, I hope that it sticks around because it's really a good outlet to show people like your process and make them feel like they're a part of like what you're doing in your studio and not just putting things as pictures on Instagram and it being so vague and me being like, oh, this is what I'm working on. Here's a picture. You can actually feel like you get a really good sense of what the brand is.
Well, and we were talking about yesterday, you know, before COVID hit, there was a lot of talk sort of speculating that the day of the influencer was over, right? That like we are moving past that. That's a model that doesn't work. But I think that that is a rumor that can be firmly put to rest because now there's only influencers. Like what else even is there?
Yeah.
So how have you rethought your business model in terms of like even getting product in front of people? Like, are you, for instance, thinking about runway shows ever again? Or, you know, like how are we putting product in front of viewers besides social media? Is there any way?
No. So I'm like, right now, my entire marketing, public relations, any kind of consumer feedback, even part of my customer service, everything is on social media. Everything. I mean, right now you can't really send things out to like celebrities to wear out to like, you know, the Grammys or the Emmys or those events like, you know, award shows or whatever. So I've been, again, using like TikTok, the people that are like on the rise, that have over like 1 million followers. I've been messaging them and hoping that they respond. I've had actually a couple people respond. They're like, oh my God, I love everything that you're sending. Like, that's amazing. Why don't, or everything, like the pictures. I'll send a picture, be like, do you want any of this? Like, I can comp it as long as you tag us, blah, blah, blah. And I've had some amazing feedback, people being like, oh yeah, I would love some of that. And then they wear it into TikTok and then I can repost it. So like, that's how I've been marketing. We're just having to completely rethink like what, you know, showing product looks like. I have gotten a lot of invitations for virtual fashion shows, and don't get me wrong, I think it's an amazing idea. I think it's a really good way to help emerging designers. But for me, having a brand, it is a lot of work to put in a collection and get models in here and get them fitted to just show something that I feel like is now the virtual. I feel like virtual fashion shows are now just for social or entertainment. Like it's not really like what fashion shows used to be, to put things in front of buyers and like, you know, editors of magazines. It's not really like that anymore. It's just like kind of a social event. So it's really hard for me to like ever think about killing myself to do one. If it just happens to be kind of like worked out for me and it's really easy and I could just take my garments and call it a day, I don't ever see a problem with that. But, you know, I've had some companies that are like, hey, here's our designer rates. Here's like the list with a couple thousand. I'm like, absolutely not. Like I can't do that right now. I know y'all are going through COVID, but so am I. So I just need to get in front of consumers. So it's hard because I used to love doing shows. But I think virtual shows is not something that I'm particularly interested in right now. I think once we get back to in person, I can kind of be a part of like the viewer's experience. And that's what I like to meet people. I like to get feedback. I like, you know, it's just virtual, you just feel so distant. And I don't know. It makes me sad.
We've not tried it or sort of really embraced it yet. We've talked about it a lot, about like, what are alternative methods of delivering this content? Like, people are putting collections together. We want to show them, you know, the spring shows were like 2 weeks away when we canceled.
Oh, I know.
And, yeah, you know.
I know. I was like, I had all pretty much.
So, you know, what do we do with all that? You know, and we have we've not moved forward on a virtual show yet, because I am of the sort of, for me, it's so hard to think about a show where you can't get a feeling for the tactile experience of what it is. Like, fashion is so much about texture and about shape and about movement. And so on a screen, am I getting that? One thing we have talked a lot about, and I wonder if you've considered it at all, is like a fashion show in a box where it's editorial images and then swatches. Like, would that approximate something? I don't We're still trying to figure it out.
I think if somebody paid for it, because again, that's essentially like creating a complete catalog, which takes almost more work than putting in a virtual fashion show for me.
Sure.
Whenever I'm doing all my line sheets and all my tech packs and putting together something that a buyer can see that like shows all my collection like in detail, it's a lot of work. So it would have to be, I think for me, something that there was a guaranteed payoff. Or maybe if it was shoppable or something like that.
Shoppable fashion show in a box. Taking notes.
If it was shoppable, I think it would be good. It would be interesting to see what the turnover is. But I don't know if you saw Christian's distance fashion show for Fashion Week. Christian Siriano did a show that was like distance, that people were like in chairs that were like 6 feet apart from each other with masks on. And it's almost like the fashion could get like almost closer to you because you're so distant that like the models would walk a path that you could really see close. But my whole thing is like, for the virtual fashion shows, like if one person has bad internet and they think that a look looks one way, it can ruin their taste for your apparel. And I just like, I mean, it's just so like unpredictable. Like if people can really see the fashion, or if, you know, they've got good internet, or if it's not pixelated, or if they see the movement, or I just think it, there's so much risk, take away from the
So you mentioned earlier that you've got 2 collections in the works right now?
Yeah. I mean, not just one. Why not do 2? Good God.
So tell us about the collections, and then also
I'm a glutton for punishment.
So what are they? And then how are you going to get them in front of the world? What are we going to do?
So I'm doing a ready to wear one, of course, just for like the brand. And it's going to be very print heavy. So I'm sure you guys saw, if you follow me on Instagram, you've seen the new prints. I'm working with this girl out of Portland. Her name's Danny, and she's absolutely freaking incredible. We're doing this like multi-butterfly print that she created, which looks like really cute and like complex and interesting. And then we're doing like a little banana print on a pink background, which is super cute. And then we're doing this monarch, which these are a little faded. The colors are absolutely gorgeous and vivid. I wonder if I think I hung up a dress earlier, which I can show you later. But and then there's a smiley face one and like an eyeball one. We got some really cute prints. So it's going to be like, I feel like other fashion designers have been doing this for this current collection, but for me, I think right now I need to hold on to every single thing that makes me happy.
Yep.
And just keep reminding myself of what makes me happy. So what I did is we went through just like motifs and ideas and inspiration that made us happy. And so of course the butterflies came into play. I love the bananas, little smiley faces. And so what I'm doing with that collection is just like, it's going to be just pure joy, like things that you see that just make you really happy, because God forbid we need that right now. And then I'm also doing a kind of like a content collection, which is going to be very like formal, which is very different for me because you've never seen really gowns on the runway other than 1 or 2 other, little pieces that I've done just for editorial stuff. But it's going to be like a 20-piece collection I'm just going to do probably over like the next few months. So it's going to take a while. Hopefully I can push it out in the beginning of like next year whenever things start to maybe like open up, hopefully. And it is going to serve a lot of purposes. So it's going to be something that I'm literally documenting every single stitch, and doing TikTok videos for each look, and showing that, but also again, like sending it out, to celebrities and things like that. But the inspiration behind that is Disney princesses reimagined as modern unconventional brides.
Obviously.
I'll show you so I finished Aurora yesterday. And Aurora, if you don't know, is Sleeping Beauty, obviously. But she's a really fun bride. So it's got like a really gorgeous like blush like bodice, and then this whole little thing is gathered, and then it's got a really fun like pink.
Oh my gosh.
Shirt. And it's completely backless with like little bows. So it's very like 2020. And we're going to also imagine that like she's getting married, and there's no COVID whatsoever. I'm not even going to bring up COVID at all. But I'm just reimagining what these like brides look like, which is fun because that makes me happy and I'm inspired by that. But like, if you just saw this whole collection, you'd be like, these are absolutely gorgeous and they're fun and they're flirty, very you, but if I didn't tell you what the inspiration was, you'd never know. So like, yeah, but I've just started on, Cinderella, and she's getting a little rhinestone makeover. And then there's going to be just like this blue tulle avant-garde, like craziness. So yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's fun. I need everything that brings me joy right now.
So promise me that you're going to do a giant editorial spread of these.
For all the girls.
Yes, please.
Yes. And I want to be very politically correct. Like I want to find like, for Tiana, I want to just find like one of my really good girlfriends that's Black and just beautiful and just like the Moana, and like bring in also diversity into it and do this big shoot with all these like gorgeous model princesses of every size and color and shape, and just
I am 100% here for it. And if nobody is producing it already, sign me up. Like, let's do it.
The show.
Let's do it. I'm here for it. 2021, June.
Yeah. I'm shooting for it because I'm trying to do 20 princesses.
That's amazing.
So I'm
love
doing
it.
Laura and Cinderella, and then it's Ariel, Belle, Moana, Tiana. Is that her name?
What is Ariel's dress gonna look like? What is she? Tell me all about it.
I have a beautiful, beautiful hunter green that I bought for this girl who was, oh my gosh, I can't even remember. It's a movie with Robert De Niro, but I mean, she couldn't go because COVID. And I was working that, so I have a gorgeous hunter green, but I don't know. I feel like I have to like really do it up with that one, and like I got to be really careful with that one and Snow White. I feel like Tinkerbell will be easy. I'm definitely doing Minnie Mouse, of course. There's 20 of them. It's gonna be crazy and it's gonna be awesome. And you'll never know that it's inspired by Disney princesses, because when you see it, you'll be like, oh my god, it's so high fashion. And then when I tell you the inspiration, you'll be like, oh my god.
But I love it because you're so true to like, there's such a pop influence to what you do, right? And I think that's, yeah. And I think that's great because it is, you know, there are a lot of ways people could react to the current situation that we're in. And I'm really appreciative that you're leaning into joy, because good Lord, that is what we need. And, you know, as we've been thinking about what are we going to do in the closeout of 2020 and early 2021, we don't know when things are unlocking, and we as a team have just said, let's just lean into joy as much as we can, and try to like find those spots where we can make things fun again. When do you think realistically you'll be back on a runway?
I told my husband, I think the ideal, well, not ideal, but like hypothetically, if I had to think about it, I think it will be the 1 year mark. I think it will be March that I start to think like, oh, I feel comfortable enough to get out there and like travel or get on an airplane. Like I haven't been on an airplane since, and I know a lot of people are traveling right now, but I haven't had the nerve to do it. I've just been too scared, essentially. So I'm hoping by March, like the month of March, when the 1 year mark is, I can get back to normal. This is awful.
Do you think you'll be on the runway in March, or you'll be ready to plan a runway in March?
Well, I would like to be on the runway in March.
Yeah. We're still thinking about it.
There's a difference between being naive and being hopeful. And so I'm hoping for that. If that doesn't happen, I'm not going to be surprised. But I'm hoping that, you know, we all can get our shit together and just wear masks and just get it all knocked out. And that's
just wear a banana on pink mask.
Just wear it. Just buy all the masks and wear them. Get this over with.
Get a cropped sweatshirt while you're at it. Like, get it together.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you about the industry. And, you know, you've been in the industry for a minute. How it has changed you, how you've seen it change, and what you think are the big changes we're going to see after this show that is 2020. So starting, how has your practice changed since you truly entered into the industry?
So I think I actually did like a talk on sustainability not too long ago. I will be completely frank. Like I don't consider myself like a sustainable designer. And I didn't, especially when I started doing fashion design, but I've noticed that there were small things that I was doing around the studio that actually were helping a lot. Like I don't throw any scraps in the trash. And so one of my friends who is a sustainable designer, she does zero waste, patterning, zero, like literally not even like the tiniest little piece of like fabric does she throw away. Like she takes it and mashes it up and does some kind of like textile, I don't even know, manipulation thing. So she was like, yeah, you saving those scraps, and if you donate them and you like take them to a quilters guild or something like that, or like even use them just to like service your machine, things like that, you're not throwing them away. That's being sustainable. So I've noticed that actually was part of the practice that I was actually like doing even before I had even realized it. And then also with the sublimation dyeing, it is a zero waste way to dye fabrics because you're not putting dye in the water systems. And the part that you don't dye stays on paper and you can reuse it later. So that was like kind of a sustainable way to like do dyeing and screen printing. So no paint, goes into the water, all that good stuff. So I think I slowly started like adopting sustainable ways without even planning it, which is understandable because, I graduated in, when did I graduate? I started fashion in 2008. No, 2007. Oh my God.
1 million years ago.
100,000 years ago. I feel like that girl on or that woman on Titanic, she's like, it's been 84 years. It does feel like that though. But in 2007, it's just like, I don't even know what I was saying. I just didn't, I hadn't planned on being like a sustainable designer. So, you can imagine that 13 years later, you're subconsciously making those changes because, it turns out that this is actually like an issue. That's kind of one way. And then I realized that COVID has kind of like, any rules that existed in fashion before COVID are gone. They're out. They're thrown out. Everybody's just kind of making their own rules. So now I've gone to seasonless fashion. I do one really big, well now two, because I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm an idiot. I'm doing 2 collections right now, but I am just doing this big batch of clothing this year, and then that's it. Next year I'll do something else because I've realized like in the world, it's always hot and cold somewhere. And if you have those like layering pieces, you have a jacket or you have a cami or you have a sweater or you have a short sleeve shirt, there's something like for every climate and everybody, and you can layer it up or you can wear it by itself, whatever. I think it's important to have those things kind of all the time. And especially with COVID, I think we've all realized that we live in sweatshirts in the summer at home. Like I wear a sweatshirt in the studio because I'm the most comfortable in this. So there's not any rules anymore. There's not. So I've gone completely seasonless, and I've noticed that I don't do any trend forecasting anymore. I kind of realized that when I was looking at trend forecasting reports, I was creating some of the things that were along the lines of other brands. And then that whole question of, how are you unique? What are you doing in this industry that's different from everybody else? That I couldn't answer that. So I just started creating my own trends, and for collections kind of running with not a theme, but an idea, like a concept as a really big umbrella. Like this one, it's just all the things that bring joy. And these look adorable together, but it's one big idea. It's not matchy. So I'm just trying to provide consumers with things that are very my aesthetic, and it's very identifiable, but also what they want. No rules anymore.
No rules. I mean, I think it's true. I think I love the idea of doing one big collection a year. I think that, we'll probably move away from seasonal shows. Maybe. I mean, who knows what'll happen. But I think that something that is really beneficial to those of us working in fashion that COVID did was make us stop and reassess the speed at which we were having to produce, and sort of that like constantly having to deliver a new collection, doing multiple seasons a year, the traveling, and I think this gap period has been good for people to reassess practices in that way.
Yeah. I think it's changed manufacturing too. Like, I don't know if you've been shopping online, but there's a lot of websites now that whenever you go to shop, it's like ready in 4 to 6 weeks, because guess what? When you buy it, that's when we make it. And that's when it should be anyways, because fast fashion is what is disgusting in our industry as it is. So I think, I love this idea of like a small batch manufacturing system where when you order it, it takes, if I don't have anything else to do, it'd take me a couple of days to make a garment. So the 4 to 6 weeks is just a window. So if they're not really backed up, you get it sooner, but also there's that we're shopping smarter, which could have been the case all the time, but this is forced it to kind of be that way. So I don't feel so much like a outcast with how we do things. Like if you order something, you put in your dimensions and you get it in like 2 to 4 weeks, that's the new norm now. So
tell me about your PhD. I don't know what you're doing your PhD in. You're going to be Dr. Allen?
Yeah.
So soon.
I know.
And what are you working on? What are you going to be the biggest expert in?
Well, I've already taken all of my coursework, so technically I've already taken all the classes in my PhD. I just have to finish dissertation, which will put me in an early grave. I did take some time off that because of the show and with the brand and just focusing on that. So I'm actually starting back up just to write the dissertation in January. And I wanted to introduce some type of like technology or new technique or something like that. So it started out, I was going to write actually a dissertation and do study groups and interviews. But I think now in fashion, everything's changing. There's a new thing that you can do for a PhD. It's called a creative scholarship. And instead you still write a paper, but you also create on top of that. So I can create a collection that is based on an idea that I write about in a dissertation. And I'm wanting to do something where I completely transform or create textiles through things like embroidery, hand embroidery, or machine embroidery. So creating things that are like really unconventional laces. And you've probably seen some of my work with that. I kind of played with it a little bit, but like the 3D butterflies, like on my skirts and dresses and stuff, I kind of created that technique myself. And so kind of playing with that idea of literally on this photo, there's no fabric. It's like thread on interfacing that is backed and feels like it's coming off of the garment. How I can take that a little bit further and essentially create my own textiles where I don't buy any fabric at all. And I create a collection from just creating textiles.
That is exciting. I mean, that's exciting. So Rachel and I were looking today at some $10,000 embroidery machine that she wants us to get. So if we get it, we'll have to bring you in to do a residency.
That's pretty cheap.
Oh.
I have 2 industrial ones back here, and they were double
more
that.
I think that's really exciting. I'll be really excited. I like the idea of you creating something new. And that's one of the questions we have is, what do you hope your addition to the industry will be? Like that you'll be known for being additive in some way.
It's kind of like what's in my bio, like having the excitement back in fashion right now. Like no shade to any designer out there. You know, we're all very different in the way that we do things and what our aesthetic looks like. But I feel like for a while, kind of whenever I was getting my bearings and I wasn't full-time with my brand, fashion was so boring. Like it was just like muted tones and very earth tones and like minimalism. And like, I feel as if fashion's one of those last, things that is not only tangible, but it is a way of self-expression without conflict, I guess, which is very important right now. Because I've deleted Facebook off my phone. It's like one of those last things that exists. So it just got so boring. Like it got so boring. Like I just felt like there were like the colors were sad, and I would just walk into Neiman's, I'd be like, I feel more sad than I was before I walked in here. There's no like excitement anymore. You guys remember Betsy Johnson? Like if you saw her store, like even if it wasn't your aesthetic, you looked at it and you were like, that kind of makes me a little happy, like good for her, living her best self. But I feel like it's very like a fine line of doing it to where it's like not tacky, or like costumey or cosplay, or what's that fine line. So that's where I'm writing on, is trying to bring excitement back in fashion to where it's not just like so snooze fest and you look at it and you're like, that's really different, that's kind of crazy, but I like it. Or you hate it, and then there's a very strong emotion as well, and I'm okay with that too. I'm like, for a while I was so bored with the industry, so bored. So it's just like life
shake it up,
brought back into it.
Yep,
that's what I try to bring to the table.
So I'll do just a couple more questions, and then audience questions if you've got them, send them in. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to ask Brittany their big burning questions. But so you are a designer who got ostensibly who started in Arkansas, whether or not you got your start in Arkansas.
I've only been here for 5 years.
So what advice would you have for our designers based in Arkansas? How do they move their career forward? Can you do it from here?
You can do it from anywhere. You literally can do it from anywhere. You can do it from like I said, everything's on social media right now, especially like at this moment in time. So taking advantage of that, you could do it literally from anywhere. You can order fabrics online, and Amazon is like next day delivery. I mean, there's things that you can do to plan ahead, but you can access the entire world on your fingertips, in society today. So yeah, I mean, my husband actually, we were all talking about this. Like if we ever relocated, left Austin, which we do not plan to, but if we did and we went somewhere else, how would I be able to keep up my business? And it was like, I essentially would be doing the exact same thing, because the only thing we got here is a Joann. So, I mean, I'm doing everything online anyways. Yeah, you can do it from anywhere. But I think my biggest advice that I tell people, especially from small towns, but essentially everybody, is you have to act as if you're one of those Kentucky Derby horses, and put those those blinders that you put on your eyes. Stop looking around at what everybody else is doing, because the minute that you see what people are doing, you're going to start comparing yourself to them, and you're going to think, oh, they're doing that, so I should do that. But if you do that, then you're creating something that's already out there, and you're not different, and you're not contributing anything to this industry. And I know that sounds really rude and very blunt, but this industry is very brutal, and no one cares about, as a designer, no one cares about your feelings. Like, either you deliver and you're, praised for that, or you don't and your career's over. So you have to figure out what is unique about you, because if you don't dive really deep into that, then you're just another designer in this really, really large pool of talent. Yeah.
How do you deal with how brutal it is? How do you steel yourself for knowing that your product and vis-a-vis yourself are constantly judged and not always, fairly?
I mean, it was really hard at first when I didn't have a very large following, but the show helped with that. It gave me a following where people were pouring out and saying oh my gosh, we love your aesthetic. Oh my gosh, I want to buy this. I want this. Especially when I was winning challenges. And if I didn't win the challenge, then I won the fan favorite. So that was almost an affirmation for me. And it just kind of reassured me that you're doing the right thing. If you keep in the back of your mind, though, there will always be somebody out there that isn't happy or hates your stuff or just thinks it's absolute trash. You don't care as much because we can't make everyone happy. It's absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible. And I've seen that on social media. There's trolls out there that want to bring you down. But I mean, they're always going to be there. I think if you keep that in the back of your mind, knowing that if you're creating for the person that you want to create for, whoever that target market is, and they're buying and they're enjoying it, then that was your goal anyways. It shouldn't just stop at one person not liking it and them not being your customer. Yeah, and I think it's just over time, my skin's got a little thicker and a little thicker. You have to take everything as critique, essentially, criticism that's constructive, and spin it in your own way to where you can become better. Because the minute you show weakness or anybody smells blood in this industry, you'll be torn apart like I don't know what, shark in I don't know. It's a brutal industry. Just try getting up on stage with 4 very opinionated judges, and then you will have very thick skin.
And so for yourself, your brand is Brittany Allen. It's you. Do you save some of yourself for, is there a private Brittany Allen that is differentiated, or are you so much just your brand?
That's it. Yeah, I'm completely the face of my brand. And you know this, but my brand before the show was Brittany Nicole, which is my middle name. But I didn't want to be too I didn't want to be seen as two identities. I wanted to be the face of my brand. I wanted people to identify with something and have an emotion when they see it and put a face behind it, because it's all from my brain, like everything. I don't have any designers that are employed here with me at the studio right now because COVID. So I'm here cooped up by myself every day. But yeah, I wanted to be the face of my brand. So I completely rebranded to be Brittany Allen. But that's also, as a fashion designer, very scary because it's very, very hard. Like 1% of us all are like self-funded. You've got to have, a loan from the bank, or you have to put in equity from other investors. And when you do that with a namesake brand, your name is on this brand, like somebody like Betsy Johnson, who, they took over her brand and she essentially there's a brand out there with her name on it that she has nothing to do with. So it's really scary. But yeah, I just find like ways. I mean, I am who I am. Like, it's all pretty much out there. I try to save things like on Instagram, like my stories are very like me, and then my posts are the brand. And that's how I kind of like keep sanity. But other than that, it's very identifiable as like me and, namesake brand.
I love that about you, though. I mean, just knowing you for a couple years now, sheesh. Yeah. But also, getting to know you through the process of working together, you just are exactly what you see. When I saw you on the show, I was like, that is exactly who she is. There's no
to be anybody that I wasn't, because I knew that was going to be very exhausting to keep up with after I got off the show. But yeah, I think so. The first couple times that I tried out for Project Runway, it was very comical. I thought that they were looking for, like the bitch or like the Southern girl or whatever. And I tried to be that person. And then it was just like, why am I doing that? Like, just go in.
It turns out you were both.
I'm not. You don't have to try at all. I just like went in. I was like, hey, what's up? And then they loved that like casual, like laid back, like cast me or don't. I don't care. Like, this is me. And then what do you know?
And here we are.
So yeah.
Okay. So we have a couple audience questions. First one, you teach at a university. Have you noticed that more students want to take a class from you since you've been on the show? Did your attendance rates go up?
A lot of people wanted to take my classes, yes. It was interesting because I was teaching in classes. So I guess the first episode was December. So we got announced in last October and I was teaching at that time. It was really funny because it was like halfway through the quarter. So we'd been in class for 5 weeks. And so it had come up, like one of my students was like a really big fan of the show. And they were like, oh my gosh, did you see they announced like a new season's coming to Project Runway? I can't wait to just see like what it's all about. And I'm like, oh, I haven't seen it. Oh, that's crazy. And then like the next week they announced the cast. He's like, you sat here and looked me in the eyes and did not like tell me, like I had no idea. And I was like, I know, I had to keep it a secret. So that was crazy. But I haven't actually taught since, I guess it's been since March, since COVID, because I hate taking online classes. So I would hate teaching them, but also I love that like one-on-one contact. So that's kind of what I've been doing TikTok for, as an outlet to like, teach people how to sew a simple seam or like something like that. That's just very like identifiable with my market. And it's kind of like my outlet to teach, but I'm not in a classroom. So I haven't taught since March, but yeah, a lot of people wanted to take my classes.
But you'll be back. You're not done teaching yet.
Yeah, we'll see. I gotta not do so much.
Yeah.
Maybe after I get my PhD, I can kind of comfortably like teach 1 or 2 classes every now and then.
Yeah. So another audience question. What was the most important lesson that you learned from each of the judges?
Brandon really made like me realize that what I was doing was right, and to stop like second guessing myself, and just like, he says this all the time, which is cliche, but stay in your lane is so relevant as a designer. Like, stop trying to do something else. Stop trying to use a different textile. Like, use what's really good, use what you're very comfortable with, that you feel good about, that's very you, and just do that in different ways. Like, the minute that I tried to do something like super different is when I was on the bottom or hell eliminated or whatever. So yeah, you just have to like stay in your lane. Let's see. I feel like some people just said like random things. Nina really loves the quality of clothing. So it was very important to like make sure that I was really paying attention. She loves the small details in clothing. So no matter what, like I would go through challenges thinking like, how can I make just this like one little thing not be something that stands out, but if you get close to the clothing, you're like, oh my gosh, that's such an important detail for the consumer. Like even if they know that the lining is like bright pink, even though you don't see it, the customer feels it. So Nina also kind of taught me just like really pay attention to the small details and know that those are equally as important as the entire look altogether. That was really evident in the Ashley Longshore challenge because I did the embroidery, which you couldn't really see, but like when you got up close to it, she's like, that little touch like is everything. So I think that's really the only lessons that I got from any of the other those judges.
What did you learn about yourself in that process? Like, what did you not know until you went through that? I mean, I just can't even imagine the pressure. But what did you walk away from saying like, okay, yeah, that I know this now.
I'm doing the right thing. Like I'm actually supposed to be in this industry. So whenever I went in, so I got casted, I was super excited. I was like trying to plan my outfits, of course. I'm not really like planning, you know, making sure I know how to do everything from my brain. I was planning my outfits and like super excited. And then like 2 days before I went, I had full breakdowns. Like I was like, oh my God, how have I tricked them into thinking that I am good enough to do this? Like, who did I manipulate to think that I'm like good enough to go and compete on this show on national television with who the hell knows? Like, I don't know who these people are that I'm going to be casted with. So I was like sick. I was sick about it. And then, you can kind of see it in the very first challenge. Like Carly just starts talking and I'm like thinking like, oh my God, what am I going to design? What am I going to design? Like, oh my God, if this could be the minute I go home, you can't go home on the first challenge. So then I won the first challenge. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm okay. Maybe I'm all right. I'm okay. But it just reassured me like I'm doing the right thing. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And to not ever veer off from like my aesthetic is my aesthetic for a reason. Like just do that and don't ever second guess anything because when you do, that's when you start doing things that are completely out of your lane. Like a tuxedo, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's over with.
It has been just so, I don't know, it's been really, really refreshing to get to know you over the last several months. And I'm truly, truly hopeful that we get to have another show someday in the future and that you'll be on our runway. I truly hope you come back to Arkansas still. You will be soon, right?
I'm coming back this weekend, but just to see family. So we're going to be quarantined while traveling. But I'm driving. I'm not flying. I don't have the nerve to do it yet. So yeah, just for the weekend. Hopefully I want to come back and do a show, but
you will be the first person to know when we schedule that show. I promise. I would say pencil in June. We're talking about June. We're thinking about it. But you know, God, who knows?
I know.
But I appreciate you so much for just being you, Brittany. I think that like you killed it on the show. Everything I've seen since COVID times, I've been so impressed with you just like pivoting left and right, staying in a good mood, TikToking, embroidering, masking. Like really, it seems like there's some joy. So I'm excited to see the new collection. Where can we buy a Brittany Allen mask?
You can go to my website, so shopbrittanyallen.com. I've got different options, like several options for masks. So I've got the fitted ones, the pleated ones, then you can buy the masks that are specific to the collection. There's a lot of different options. Hopefully not everybody's masked out and you're washing your masks and you need more masks.
Hashtag wear a mask.
Hashtag buy my mask.
All right, Brittany. Well, thank you so much. If anybody has any last minute questions, I'm counting down.
Yeah, we still got, I think, 4 minutes. So, any other question?
This is speak now or forever hold your peace. So where's your new studio? Tell me about your new studio. You just moved in?
Yeah, in Austin. No, so I've been here for, I guess, 2 or 3 years. But it was one little. Oh, I've been in Austin for like 5.5 years, but in this studio for like 2 or 3 years. But it was this small little office space that I was so crammed. I can't even like describe to you how crammed in I was. I was like 450 square feet. It was awful. But it's my husband's office, and so there's a really big conference room, and these 2 little small offices that he wasn't using. So I'm like, let's knock out the wall and let me use the entire space. So now it's 1,000 square feet. So I've got, like inventory, and I've got like a little seating area, and there's a whole like shipping section over here, and that's all embroidery. And then the thing you don't see is where I actually sew. So that's all my machinery,
wow.
And like all of my tools. And then this is a really big cutting table, which is amazing. So yeah, I'm super organized, and I'm happy, and I got space to spread out and work. So it's great.
And so Erin asked in the chat, your PhD is in fashion?
Yeah, it will be in apparel, merchandising, and design.
Okay.
And it's not at UT Austin. It is it's so random. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's from Iowa State. It's a hybrid program. So I was going there for a couple weeks of summer and doing their coursework in person, and then I would come back and do all the other coursework online. I still do have to travel back for like, I think, my exams and graduation, stuff like that. So but yeah, Iowa State, they got an amazing PhD program right there in Little Ames, Iowa. So it reminds me of home. It's so tiny.
Well, Brittany, thank you so much for your time, as always. I truly look forward to your mentoring in our upcoming residency program, yeah?
Yeah. Which I think the dates are December and January.
I hope so.
Yeah, December and January.
Well, I look forward.
Plan to be virtual, so we'll still have those.
Yes. Well, I'm excited to see you then, and I can't wait until we get to tell our audience about your upcoming show in Northwest Arkansas that we will obviously put on the calendar sometime soon.
We'll figure it out. Let's do a fashion show in like those, those plastic bubbles, like like the rubber.
No joke. No jokes.
On the runway with those things on. Like, I need human interaction. I'm going to just.
My husband sent me a link to those the other day. He was like, "You're doing an equipment shopping spree. Go ahead and just buy those."
Yeah, it's totally fine. Just put yourself in this plastic box. It'll be okay.
Okay, Brittany. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank you so much. Congratulations on staying fun in COVID times, and we will talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.